Discover the amazing transformation. How my daughter-in-law surprised me by remodeling my home. Margaret Reynolds sat in the dimly lit living room of her family home, feeling the weight of silence press down on her chest. The once vibrant walls adorned with children's drawings and family photos showcasing a lifetime of joy, now felt like a cage, trapping her in memories of laughter that had long since faded. After her husband's passing, the house had become a heavy burden, an echo of bygone days. Each creak of the floorboard seemed to whisper reminders of love lost and hope vanished. Now she was left grappling with a sense of emptiness, contemplating whether she could bear to watch it transform at the hands of her daughter-in-law, Jessica. Remodeling seemed more like a euphemism for replacing all she held dear. How could she let someone else mold her sanctuary? The thought of her home being ripped apart clawed at her insides, filling her with unease. When Jessica arrived with architectural plans that sparkled with ambition, Margaret felt herself freeze. She admired Jessica's determination, but beneath that admiration lurked doubts that loomed larger than the very structure surrounding them. As a retired schoolteacher, her world had revolved around teaching students, not surrendering to failure. What if this remodel stripped her of the essence of the place she poured her love into? Conflict twisted in her gut. The thought of losing the very foundation of her memories gnawed at her heart. Before she could voice her concerns, Jessica's enthusiastic ideas filled the air, drowning out Margaret's fears. "We can open up the kitchen and create a family space where everyone can gather, Mom." Each suggestion landed like a stone in Margaret's heart, sending ripples of anger and vulnerability coursing through her. Her mind raced. Did Jessica see the house as just a project, an opportunity to make a name for herself in an unforgiving industry? Margaret couldn't help but worry that it was an extension of her desire for validation, a reflection of the kitchen table conversations that felt suddenly so far away. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Margaret's hands trembled as she looked at the plans, torn between pride and dread. Memories flooded back, moments of maternal inadequacy swirling around her like a storm. Tension crackled as Jessica passionately detailed her vision, while Margaret vacillated between wanting to support her daughter-in-law and a desperate need to protect her haven. An evening storm brewed outside unnoticed, quickening the pulse of anxiety. Then it struck. Nature unleashed chaos upon their shared world. Wind howled through the eaves, screams of the night erupting as rain pelted the window panes like angry fists. Margaret's heart lurched. Everything once familiar now felt precarious. As they huddled against the rising waters in the basement, Margaret realized the storm mirrored her internal turmoil. Their strained dynamic would be unearthed alongside the very structure of the house. What remained hidden beneath the surface? And when silence reclaimed the space, would they find not only broken shingles but shattered trust and unresolved grievances? The chaos left them to sift through memories alongside debris, confronting the wreckage of not only the house but their relationship too. Would this storm reveal hidden truths? Or would it solidify the barriers they had struggled to bridge? Margaret stood at the brink, not sure if this was a moment for healing or the beginning of the end. She clutched the journal, her mother's words echoing in her head, and with a shuddering breath, let it slip from her fingers, its pages fluttering open to a passage that resonated with unspoken hope. Would this lead them to discover facets of their connection they both needed to face? Or were they too far gone to reconcile in the wreckage? The storm raged outside, and Margaret's heart matched its tempo. She felt as if she were drowning, both in the water gathering around them, and in the depths of her unresolved emotions. The sight of Jessica, lit by the dim glow of a battery-powered lantern, filled her with a mix of despair and determination. Was it truly possible to build a bridge across the chasm that now lay between them? She had spent so long avoiding confrontation, clinging to the comfort of her memories, but perhaps it was time to face the truth. With a resolute grip on her journal, Margaret began to confront the overwhelming uncertainty swelling within her. The chaos of the exterior storm mirrored her inner turmoil. She felt pulled in different directions, torn between bulldozing through her daughter-in-law's dreams and allowing her own fears to retake control. She couldn't allow this remodel to sever the ties that bound them together. Yet she also couldn't stand idle as Jessica bulldozed through her sanctuary. Jessica, she finally managed, her voice shaky but firm. How can we ensure that this place remains our home? The memories are essential. The question hung between them, a lifeline thrown into the storm's turbulent waters. Jessica's brow furrowed. I want to honor your memories, Mom. This house is a part of you, but it needs to grow too. We can't let nostalgia trap us. Just like you taught me in school, we have to adapt and evolve, right? Margaret noted the earnestness in Jessica's eyes, the spark of ambition shining through a resolve that felt fragile yet crucial. Suddenly, clarity zipped through Margaret like a jolt of electricity. Perhaps this wasn't just about a house, perhaps it was an opportunity for the two of them to redefine their relationship. Could it be that Jessica's passion was an invitation to create something new, rather than a threat? This is my space, and I filled it with love and hard work over the years, Margaret replied, her voice gaining strength. But maybe I've been too focused on what will be lost. If we are going to move forward, it also means finding ways to memorialize what we've shared. Those childhood drawings could become part of your vision. Our family's history can blend into this new chapter. Jessica's face lit up, though it was tempered with cautious optimism. I love that idea, Mom. We could frame some of them and create a gallery wall. A celebration of everything this place means, but also a launchpad for new moments. Margaret felt her heart soften, a tentative glimmer of excitement fluttering within her breast. Conversations she had long avoided began to flow, revealing glimpses of potential. Perhaps this remodel could be about healing rather than stripping everything bare. Each suggestion from Jessica no longer felt like a push against her memories, but a co-creation, a chance for their respective fears to be addressed through dialogue. Yet as they began crafting a plan together in the chaotic stillness of the basement, doubt brushed against the edges of Margaret's confidence. Was she truly ready to embrace this amalgamation of past and future? The house was not just a structure, it was a vessel of emotions, challenges, and growth. Each decision required courage, and she wasn't sure how deep her reservoir of bravery are in as they pieced together their vision. Margaret couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere amidst the laughter and confrontation they would encounter deeper divisions, ones that wouldn't easily dissolve. More than memories needed to unpack, so did the underlying tensions of expectations they had of each other, the shadows of resentment and unexpressed fears lurking behind every smile. Just as they laid out the blueprints for a new kitchen, a gust of wind rattled the windows, making Margaret jump and her pulse quicken. Would they weather this storm together? Or would the cracks begin to reveal themselves before the walls were even built? With renewed urgency, Margaret set down her plans, determined to uncover the depths of her voice and the authenticity of their connection. I'm willing to try, she said, meeting Jessica's gaze. But we need to dig deeper. We have a lot to face beyond the surface changes. In that moment, a flicker of understanding ignited between them, but it hovered precariously, teetering on the edge of revelation. What buried truths would emerge as they continued their discussions? With every revelation, would they reaffirm their bond or merely expose more fractures? The stakes felt higher than the structural integrity of their family home. The real reconstruction was just beginning, and Margaret was beginning to sense that this journey would demand much more than she had prepared for. Would her willingness to confront the turbulent history they both shared withstand the test? As the wind howled insistently against the basement windows, Margaret felt a shift within herself, an uncomfortable stirring that demanded attention. This wasn't just a moment of familial negotiation. It was a challenge to the very foundation of who she believed she was, a caretaker, a matriarch defined by the patterns of her past. Yet, facing Jessica now, her resolve solidified into something sharper, more defined. She had spent so much time negotiating the terms of her own existence. It was time to take a stand for what she wanted as well. What do you really envision for this space? Margaret asked, her voice firmer than before. Just above a whisper, yet it hung heavily in the charged air. She needed to elevate the conversation from surface-level decisions to intimate truths about their aspirations. Jessica's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, but there was a flicker of vulnerability that wasn't lost on Margaret. I want it to be bright and open, she began. A kitchen where we can cook together, share stories, a place of welcoming warmth. There was a dangerous beauty to the way Jessica dreamt. It was a stark departure from the cramped little rooms filled with shadows of the past. A part of Margaret recoiled. Those shadows were her refuge, metaphysical walls around her heart, protecting her from change. As Jessica shared her vision, however, Margaret found herself tentatively embracing the idea of radiance. But even as hope peeked through, doubt crashed in like another wave. And what if we lose this? She pressed, gesturing to the history etched into every corner, every creaking floorboard. What of the stories that have shaped us? Jessica's expression softened. We won't lose them, Mom. They'll be the bedrock we build upon. We can celebrate those stories in our new kitchen, with family dinners and all the laughter that fills this home. Margaret shifted uneasily, her mind racing. Could the weight of her history coexist with the vibrancy Jessica dreamed of? For too long, she had felt her life shrink against the demands of time and change. This was a defining moment. What if Jessica's dreams could coalesce with her memories to create a sanctuary that honored the past while embracing the future? The thought jolted her into realization. Margaret could wield her memories as assets rather than crutches. They could become the fabric that intertwined with the fresh, vibrant threads Jessica wanted to weave into their shared existence. Suddenly, the storm outside was met with a new internal storm, a maelstrom of excitement mingled with fear. How can we ensure that this place feels like home for both of us? Margaret asked, her voice tremoring with urgency. Jessica hesitated, tilting her head, considering. More than just the walls or the decor. It's about the imprint we leave as a family. What if we start a tradition? Something to make the memories accessible yet evolving? Margaret's heartbeat quickened again. Not from fear but an inkling of an idea. A tradition. Like a family recipe that we can pass down? A dish we create together. Adapting it with our own twists? Yes. Jessica's enthusiasm caught the room's energy, sparking a twinkling connection that stilled Margaret's internal chaos. The idea of cooking together, carrying forth stories and culinary creations, felt wildly transformative. As they began scribbling new ideas, Margaret realized that her willingness to engage was not just a concession. This was an opportunity and exploration into uncharted personal territories. She saw Jessica less as a rival threat, and more as an ally in a venture that could stabilize both their fears about disconnection and loss. Yet as the dialogue continued, seeds of tension threatened to surface again. Would old wounds fester under the guise of collaboration? A sudden shadow crossed Margaret's mind, Jessica's own expectations. Would they meld beautifully? Or would frustration emerge from the mix? Margaret stopped abruptly, her eyes narrowing as she met Jessica's hopeful gaze. But what if we aren't on the same page at some point? How will we reconcile our differences? Jessica raised a brow, a spark igniting in her expression. Then we communicate, Mom. No holding back. The house will embody our story. Let the conflict surface now beneath this roof. Margaret felt the storm outside intensify as resolve swirled within her. For this patchwork of cohabitation, she needed to navigate unknown waters, fear included. Could she truly dive into uncomfortable conversations without submerging? Would the willingness to confront their shared past solidify their connections for the future? With tension building, this was just the beginning of their battle, one fraught with unearthing fears but offering the tantalizing tasting notes of what was possible. She bit her lip, feeling a mix of vulnerability and exhilaration, as they turned the page on this transformative chapter together. What lay ahead was unclear, fraught with potential upheaval. As the storm raged outside, Margaret couldn't shake the feeling that the greatest test lingered just out of reach. What hidden truths about herself and their family history awaited in the shadows? Would she be ready to confront all that had yet to emerge? The air within the basement buzzed with burgeoning ideas, but it was the potential for conflict that gnawed at Margaret's insides like a restless animal. On one hand, Jessica's enthusiasm illuminated the room, shifting the oppressive weight of tradition into a beacon of possibility. On the other, the quiet paralysis from her past still loomed, reluctant to release its grip. Can we really do this together? Margaret's voice trembled with doubt that felt like it echoed against the damp, peeling walls. Jessica took a deep breath, her confidence unwavering. Mom, we need to trust each other. This isn't just about the kitchen. It's about restructuring our lives, right? The way we approach our relationship and our history. Margaret's instinct was to retreat into her familiar patterns of worry. How could she trust so completely when the intensity of change felt so chaotic? In the throes of their conversation, she faced not just the emotional upheaval of the renovation, but also the fear that loomed in each memory, ready to cast shadows over the light Jessica sought to bring in. What if I can't keep up? She confessed quietly. What if I drown in all this? Jessica stepped closer, softening her gaze. You won T. It's okay to feel hesitant, Mom, but we need to engage to understand together. Just think, each dish can carry a memory, but it can also create new ones. The thought of crafting new memories resonated deeply within Margaret. Perhaps embracing Jessica's vision was the key to unlocking her own buried aspirations. In that moment, she questioned whether relinquishing control meant losing her identity. What if she could redefine her role to something more than just a passive steward of the past? I need to be honest. All of this, she waved her hand around as if to encompass everything that was shifting the house. Their relationship, culture. It scared me. It scares me too, Jessica admitted, her tone more empathetic than defensive. But change is the only way forward, right? I mean, don't you want to enjoy this space again? To laugh? To simply be? The challenge of navigating fear rebranded itself in Margaret's mind, shifting from an impending storm to a beckoning journey. She caught herself considering what life could feel like beyond these walls, beyond her established boundaries. Could they forge their partnership with a rhythm distinct from the one she knew? Just as her thoughts began to crystallize into resolve, the low rumble of thunder reverberated outside, mimicking the turbulent emotions swirling inside her. Margaret drew a deep breath, feeling the air heavy with their unspoken willingness to confront the uncertainties ahead. Yes, she finally said, with a sense of determination that surprised even her. Let us document everything. The process, our thoughts, feelings, what we want from this space. It was an invitation not only to co-create the kitchen, but also their relationship. But what if we hit a wall? Jessica's voice was laced with concern, conscious of the risks entailed. Margaret nodded, ready to confront that fearful uncertainty. Then we take a step back and reassess. But we won't let this ruin us. Not this time. Jessica's smile was brilliant, radiating warmth that melted some of the iceberg that Margaret had let grow around her heart over the years. That sounds perfect. It'll be like our own recipe documenting our lives. Yet, while excitement surged within her chest at the thought of a new beginning, the trepidation of opening old wounds nagged persistently at her. Questions remained: what pieces of their history were best left untouched? Would their new memories tear open long-dormant grievances? Steeling herself, Margaret cast a glance toward the basement stairs. Let us go upstairs. The storm may rage outside, but that doesn't mean we can't build a little joy down here. As they turned to ascend together, Margaret felt an unfamiliar presence shift within her, a swelling courage to confront what lay ahead. What challenges would testing their bond reveal? And most importantly, what hidden aspects of herself waited to be uncovered in the fray of all that was yet to come? She swallowed hard, the weight of her question lingering like a hanging mist as they stepped toward the horizon of transformation. Margaret couldn't ignore the tension, the unresolved potential that pulsed deeply. Would she embrace this newfound journey, and could it redefine the very essence of her being? As they emerged from the dimness of the basement into the brighter upstairs, the clatter of their footsteps punctuated the thick silence that lived in the house. The world outside was consumed by rain, each drop a reminder of the storm brewing within her. Margaret cast a glance at the kitchen. Its faded tiles, scuffed countertops, and outdated appliances seemed to fold under the gravity of her doubts. But today was different. She had just committed to documenting this journey. A subtle shift of purpose kindled within her. What do we need to start? Jessica's inquiry broke through her swirling thoughts. Margaret hesitated, grappling with her instinct to cling to the safety of inertia. Maybe a list of what we need, and how we want it to feel. Margaret sketched out a vision in her mind, the kind of kitchen filled with laughter and warmth, a sacred space reborn rather than an ominous reminder of what had been. The thought of engaging in this process alongside Jessica ignited something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Let us write down the things that excite us about this space, too, Jessica added, her voice infused with a youthful fervor that tugged at Margaret's heart. Doesn't it all have to feel heavy? Gradually, they settled at the kitchen table, which had seen countless meals and arguments, but now sat in an expectant silence. They exchanged ideas, laughter bubbling to the surface, as both of them shared thoughts on design and layout. With each stroke of the pen, Margaret felt the old walls of her anxiety begin to crumble. Here, let us brainstorm colors for the walls, Jessica suggested, opening a small notepad with sketches and swatches. Margaret held a vivid green swatch, imagining how the light would filter through the window, painting the space with a fresh vibrancy that represented their new beginning. What if we do this green? It feels alive, she proposed cautiously, testing the waters of creativity. Jessica's eyes sparkled. Exactly. It'll be like bringing nature indoors. It feels optimistic, doesn't it? Margaret nodded, her heart pounding in rhythm with the evolving idea. Optimistic was a feeling she hadn't allowed herself in a long time. As they exchanged ideas, they uncovered hidden talents. Margaret discovered her knack for color coordination, while Jessica demonstrated an eye for practical design without compromising style. "Mom, you're really good at this," Jessica exclaimed, and a flush crept to Margaret's cheeks, warming the chilly air that had settled around them. For each item they listed, Margaret sensed a release of tension, a transformation fueling her burgeoning confidence. Yet beneath the excitement, questions persisted like weeds erupting in a blossoming garden. How long could this positivity last? Then the atmosphere shifted when the memory of a shouting match over trivial decisions crashed into her mind, its echo dampening her newfound enthusiasm. "What if we disagree?" she voiced, the uncertainty curling at the edges of her enthusiasm. Jessica didn't flinch. "If we disagree, we'll talk it out. You're my mom first. We have to prioritize that." A solemnity hovered between them, the understanding of unspoken struggles surfacing. "I know I have to challenge myself," Margaret admitted, aware that she had been the anchor in their relationship for years. "But I can't help but see the potential for tension. My past has taught me to expect it." "Right, but we've also overcome challenges before. Think of how we handled last Thanksgiving." Jessica leaned forward, her intent gaze searching Margaret's eyes. "And didn't he let it ruin our time together?" Margaret chimed in, recognizing the truth in her daughter's words. Though the remnants of her past still held a tight grip, the newfound determination flickered inside her, igniting a sense of agency she hadn't accessed in years. This kitchen project was more than just aesthetics. It became a chance to reconcile her roles as a mother, as creator, as a person who could embrace life's uncertainties rather than succumb to them. With every inch of progress documented, Margaret felt nothing less than her past identities peeling away. Yet, another thought raced through her. Was she strong enough to face criticism when the renovation consumed more than just the walls? What if their endeavor revealed deeper fissures in their relationship? For now, she set those questions aside, choosing to focus instead on the humming potential of the moment. "Let us pin this up," Margaret suggested, her fingers brushing across the swatches and writings as a tangible map of their journey began to take shape. As they secured the paper to the refrigerator, an unexpected thrill coursed through her, the kind that hinted at possibilities yet to unfold. "I'm ready for this," Margaret affirmed quietly, an acknowledgement not just of the renovation, but of the tender promise of their relationship's evolution. She gazed at the ideas they generated together, the documentation of their growth and unity. Yet, a voice within whispered that the real challenge wasn't merely design, but the deeper layers of connection awaiting exploration. What untold stories lay beneath the surface, and would she be able to confront the shadows cast not by the house, but by her own heart? As the storm raged outside, Margaret allowed herself a breath of anticipation. She was stepping into uncharted territory, as each decision pulled back another layer of her past. What was she truly willing to uncover and face as the journey began? The damp air stirred as Margaret and Jessica prepared their plans, the rhythmic beat of the rain outside matching the quickening pace of Margaret's heart. The kitchen table, already transformed with sketches and swatches, suddenly felt like more than just a workspace. It was a threshold to a new life, a canvas awaiting vibrant strokes of color and warmth. "Let us make that list," Jessica encouraged, her enthusiasm a beacon guiding Margaret through the fog of her uncertainty. Sitting opposite her daughter, Margaret felt a blend of anxiety and exhilaration wash over her. They weren't just mapping out a physical space. They were charting a new territory in their relationship. "What should we prioritize?" Margaret asked, itching to dive deeper into this transformative journey. Jessica paused, her expression thoughtful. How about the things that make us feel the most at home? I mean, what would create comfort for both of us? Home. The concept sent a shiver down Margaret's spine. Home was supposed to be a sanctuary, yet it had often felt like a battleground for years. Would this renovation exorcise the ghosts of their past? Would they emerge not just with a new kitchen but with a renewed sense of family? We could start by considering functionality, Margaret proposed, channeling a pragmatic approach. How do you envision us using this kitchen? Cooking together? Entertaining? Definitely cooking. And what about baking? I know we haven't done that in a while, Jessica chimed in, which caught Margaret off guard. The memory of flour fights and the sweet aroma of cookies warmed her heart, a reminder of the easy laughter and joy that had dwindled over the years. Hey, yes, I love that idea. A smile tugged at Margaret's lips, nostalgia mingling with her newfound resolve. Could rediscovering these shared moments bridge the distance that had come to define their relationship? Their brainstorming evolved into a mosaic of suggestions: open shelving for visibility, a spacious island for collaboration, vibrant backsplash tiles to spark joy. Each idea liberated something within Margaret. I want this space to reflect us, she said, her tone stronger. So let us add personal touches, Jessica exclaimed, rummaging through her stack of notes to pull out ideas. We can use family photos or maybe even that painting you did back in college. At the mention of her old artwork, a flicker of vulnerability ignited in Margaret. How long had it been since she'd embraced her own creativity? Who was she beyond the confines of motherhood and routine? She hesitated, confronted by a fear she hadn't fully acknowledged. Would she risk revealing her true self, both to Jessica and to herself? Jessica's voice cut through her turmoil. Mom, you used to be so creative. You can't forget that. Margaret swallowed hard, grappling with her daughter's observation and the sting of unfulfilled potential. I haven't found the time to create, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper, each word laced with regret. Her eyes flicked away, hiding the shadows of her past. Then maybe that's why this project matters, Jessica said gently, a thread of understanding weaving into their conversation. We're not just building a kitchen. We're inviting back the parts of ourselves we let slip away. Margaret's breath hitched as insight washed over her. Individual desires and shared ambitions could coexist in this journey. The walls of her limitations felt like they were beginning to melt away. But then, the weight of reality settled heavy on her shoulders. What if she didn't know how to rekindle that spark? What if vulnerability revealed not only hidden talents but insecurities that could fracture their tentative bond? Let us finalize the list and make it our first goal, she replied, words now lined with determination. Each scribble of the pen felt like an act of defiance against her insecurities, an assertion that she had more to give. The ambience in the kitchen shifted as they curated their vision, laughter rising, fueled by a shared dream. But as her heart brimmed with hope, a deeper fear lurked. Could she summon the courage to embrace not just the renovation but also the emotional upheaval that came with it? As they pinned their ideas up, a soft rustle outside captured her attention. She peered out the window to witness a break in the clouds, an effulgent ray of sunlight piercing through the rain. Was the storm finally giving way to clarity? What if we face difficulties beyond the walls? Margaret posed, her mind racing toward the unknown. Then we tackle them, Jessica answered resolutely. Together. That promise hung thick in the air. But Margaret couldn't shake the feeling that undercurrents of tension loomed. Would they truly weather every storm? As thoughts collided, she felt the pulse of her doubts pushing against the newfound aspirations. This was more than wood and paint. It was about healing, about navigating through fears that could crack open their evolving relationship. As the first pure light of day emerged, Margaret felt the lightness of possibility intertwined with trepidation. What awaited them as they turned toward deeper connections? And how would they confront the shadows of the past looming over their blossoming future? She faced the journey ahead, her heart pounding with both fear and the thrill of potential change. Margaret's resolve solidified with the first rays of sunlight filtering through the remnants of the rain. For the first time in what felt like years, she sensed an awakening within herself. The prospect of this renovation wasn't merely about transforming their kitchen. It symbolized a broader metamorphosis, a reclaiming of her identity beyond motherhood. While Jessica engaged in meticulous organization of their ideas, Margaret secretly battled her doubts. Could she truly embrace the creative spirit she once nurtured so fiercely? The flickering memories of vibrant colors and bold brush strokes haunted her, teasing her with what could have been. Fragmented thoughts spiraled through her mind as she watched Jessica enthusiastically sketch potential layouts. What about cooking classes? Jessica's voice broke through Margaret's reverie. Cooking classes? Margaret echoed, intrigued yet hesitant. The idea felt grander than she anticipated. I mean, wouldn't it be fun to learn new recipes? We could have some friends join us. Jessica's eyes gleamed with excitement, a visual representation of their blossoming connection. The knot tightened in Margaret's stomach. Here they were, planning not just a space but experiences that intertwined their lives. Yet the fear of stepping outside her comfort zone clung to her. What if she failed to create those ideal moments Jessica envisioned? Those laughter-filled cooking sessions that danced between nostalgia and the promise of something new. Do you think we have the time? She asked, her voice betraying her burgeoning insecurity. We'll make time. We have to, Jessica insisted, and her determination felt intoxicating. How about we schedule one class a month? Something to look forward to? The idea ignited a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was another step the two of them could take toward rebuilding their relationship. Would it be possible to cultivate joy in the kitchen once again? The potential felt both exhilarating and frightening. Okay, I'm in, she said, her voice steadying. Commitment wasn't a weakness. It was part of growth. Jessica grinned, and that spark of enthusiasm slowly seeped into Margaret's own inhibitions. Perhaps this renovation was more than just a physical change. It was a holistic one. What else could we do that feels like us? Flashes of her past rose before her impromptu late-night baking sessions, popcorn movie nights on the couch, and the spontaneous dance parties in the living room. These moments had faded, turned ghostly in her memory, suffocated by life's obligations. Let us create a wall of memories, Margaret suggested suddenly, her heart racing with the willingness to be vulnerable. We could use clips for photos, notes, or even recipes that mean something to us. Jessica's eyes widened with excitement. That's a great idea. We can use string lights to make it warm and inviting. Margaret felt a rush of energy at her daughter's reaction. Suddenly, her creative impulses, previously shrouded in doubt, began to sprout like seedlings breaking through hard soil. It was a small action, installing the wall of memories, but it symbolized reclaiming who she was. It forced her to confront the emotions tied to their shared history. The thrill coursing through her felt contagious, yet beneath it lingered the underlying questions. The shadows of her insecurities loomed larger, now aware of the light igniting beneath them. Could she find a balance while nurturing this resurgence of creativity? What would it mean if she fully embraced this chance to redefine herself? As the afternoon unfolded, they sketched the outline of their kitchen, ideas blossoming into plans. With each pencil line, Margaret realized the potential for deeper change awaited her if she could accept it. In that moment, a shadow flickered in the corner of the room, a ghost of past failures and self-doubt that whispered for her to retreat to the safety of familiarity. The tension tightened. Would she permit the old voices to drown out her progress? Mom? Jessica's voice broke through Margaret's thoughts, the sudden seriousness in her tone drawing her gaze back to her daughter. What if we couldn't just renovate the kitchen? What if we turned this into a project about our lives, about navigating the changes? The weight of understanding hung in the air, a tangible challenge ringing clear between them. This was more than nails and paint. It was about reshaping their futures forever. Would they embrace the difficulty of vulnerability together? Or would nostalgia for the past keep them ensnared in a chokehold of fear? Margaret remained silent, her heart thudding heavily in her chest. The path ahead was murky, thick with uncharted territory. She felt the pull of the kitchen's promise, the ambition bubbling just beneath the surface. Yet somewhere in the shadows a flicker of self-doubt reminded her of the stakes. Could she face the past without losing herself? As the sunlight turned golden, illuminating the kitchen walls, Margaret resolved to grab this opportunity to confront her fears, to plant seeds of courage where uncertainty thrived. As they continued to outline their vision for the space, a keen awareness of what lay ahead settled over Margaret. Each stroke of the pencil could either build a wall or bridge a gap. The decision felt monumental, but could she muster the strength to follow through? And as the excitement intermingled with trepidation, Margaret pondered the transformation awaiting her, a vivid image pulsing in her mind the moment they would finally face the remnants of their past, effectively rewriting their story together. The promise of connection hung tantalizingly close, yet danger lingered, a reminder of the obstacles yet to come. As the days progressed, the initial excitement of the renovation morphed into a torrent of activity. Margaret found herself weeding through the chaos of paint swatches and fabric samples, each choice culminating in an intricate dance of collaboration with Jessica. With every passing day, they unearthed layers of creativity buried beneath duty and routine. Strangely, some of her fears began to subside, replaced with a sense of purpose that felt foreign yet invigorating. The cooking classes, originally a tentative idea, transformed into a cornerstone of their shared experiences. Together, they navigated the realm of culinary arts, experimenting with flavors and techniques that had once seemed daunting. Each class not only introduced new recipes but also nurtured a growing bond, a fabric woven from laughter, mistakes, and triumphs in equal measure. Yet with each small victory came a deeper reflection on her lingering vulnerabilities. One evening, as they diced vegetables for a delicious stir-fry, Jessica casually commented, "You know, you've really blossomed, Mom. It's like I'm seeing a new side of you." Margaret's heart fluttered at the affirmation but was quickly enshrouded by a gnawing question. Was she merely a shadow of her former self, or was she reclaiming something real? The dichotomy simmered beneath the surface, threatening to ignite her insecurities once more. She mustered the courage to confront it, acknowledging that rebirth was inseparable from loss, the loss of the person she used to be when life was simple. In subsequent classes, Margaret discovered not only culinary skills but also layers of herself that had been painted by the struggles of motherhood and routine. The delicate art of souffle making brought forth memories of her own mother, a gentle reminder of the joy cooking had once brought to both of them. Realizing how disconnected she had become from those roots struck Margaret with a bittersweet pang. One Thursday night, amid the aroma of spices wafting through their kitchen, a realization struck her like a lightning bolt. Margaret wasn't just rebuilding the walls of her kitchen, she was reshaping the very foundation of her identity. She held the potential to craft not merely meals but memories, resilient pillars in the architecture of their home. This revelation infused her with urgency and determination. She proposed a cooking showcase for family and friends, a chance for them to celebrate their accomplishments together. Jessica's eyes sparkled at the idea, the prospect of such an event stoking a fire of excitement within both of them. However, as the date of the showcase approached, the whispers of doubt returned, each one more insistent than the last. What if the event was a disaster? What if her cooking fell short of expectations? The specter of her past failures loomed larger, threatening to engulf her newfound confidence. "Mom, are you okay?" Jessica's voice floated through her thoughts one morning as they were preparing for the showcase. The concern in Jessica's tone resonated deeply. It served as a reminder that the stakes were as real for her daughter as they were for Margaret herself. "Just a bit nervous," Margaret admitted, her voice fragile. "Don't be. We've got this." Jessica's unwavering faith cut through Margaret's wavering resolve. The sound of her daughter's belief became a lifeline to the emerging autonomy Margaret was attempting to clutch. Each heartbeat propelled her forward, reminding her that she could no longer hide behind the facade of self-doubt. She steered her thoughts with intent, calculating risks and envisioning the showcase as not just an event, but a celebration of their evolution together. But as she prepared the dishes rooted in their shared history, the shadows of comparison loomed within her psyche, whispering that she would always be inextricably linked to her past, an artist too afraid to pick up the brush again. On the eve of the gathering, Margaret stood alone in the kitchen, each counter illuminated by the soft glow of string lights. Looking at the wall of memories, she felt something shift within her. This was not the end. It was merely the prelude to forging a deeper understanding of motherhood, artistry, and identity. As Margaret prepared for the night's event filled with uncertainty, a spark ignited in her an understanding of resilience and the importance of courage. She felt an unwavering commitment to face everything that lay ahead, knowing that both joy and fear had their place in this narrative. Yet, as the clock edged toward the late hour and visions of bursting laughter filled her mind, a familiar weight in her chest brought an all-too-familiar question to mind. What would happen if the days of excitement turned into moments of disappointment? Would she be able to withstand the unfolding consequences? The answer, like her journey, awaited her in the embrace of the unknown. The night of the showcase arrived with an electric atmosphere that hummed with both anticipation and anxiety. As guests began to trickle in, Margaret felt the tightening grip of her insecurities. She wasn't merely cooking. She was laying bare her soul before the very people who had witnessed her life's tapestry of imperfections and triumphs. And the kitchen. She moved methodically, recalling her lessons with Jessica. Her hands stirred the fragrant risotto with newfound confidence, all while her mind wrestled with a persistent voice urging her to second-guess every move. Yet more vividly than the simmering pot on the stove was the bond she was forging with her daughter, intertwined with shared dreams and genuine admiration. As laughter echoed through the living room, Margaret stole glances at Jessica, who flitted among the guests like a graceful butterfly, her smile infectious. Each time she caught Jessica's eye, a rush of warmth urged Margaret to push aside her doubts. This wasn't just about her cooking or her metamorphosis as a person. It was a testament to the relationship they had cultivated amidst the paintbrushes and spatulas. With a deep breath, Margaret plated her first dish, feeling the weight of the moment spiral from excitement into a snapshot of vulnerability. The guests gathered around, their eyes dancing with curiosity. "What do we have here?" A familiar face called out, breaking the tension with a jovial spirit. "This is a lemon-thyme risotto," Margaret announced, her voice trembling but steady, inspired by memories of home. The words felt like an invocation, a bridge between her past and present. There was power in naming her intentions, a clarity that swirled through the air and settled into her heart. She watched the first bites being tasted. Her heart raced. The compliments poured in, lavished freely upon her culinary creations, and Margaret felt her spirit lift. Each kind word felt like an anchor grounding her in this moment, reminding her that she was embarking on a journey not alone, but with the support of those who had shared her struggles and growth. But amid the warmth, a shadow loomed. As she caught sight of her sister, Helen, pushing through the crowd, a familiar sense of inadequacy crept in. Helen had always maintained an air of effortless perfection, a tastefulness that felt unattainable. "Looks nice," Helen said, a hint of skepticism lurking beneath her words. Margaret took a steadying breath. Rather than shrinking from Helen's comment, she felt the embers of determination split the heaviness that burdened her. "Thank you," she replied, maintaining eye contact. "It's a reflection of where I'm at in life." The moment felt significant, a shift in the familial dynamic she dared to challenge. As the night wore on, Margaret found herself engaging in deep conversations with friends and family, revealing pieces of herself she had long kept hidden. Through the laughter and clinking glasses, she discovered again her capacity for connection, the joy of sharing posts and recipes, and how these small exchanges enriched her life. Midway through the showcase, Margaret noticed a few guests gathering around Jessica, who was demonstrating how to make a simple dessert, a refreshing mango sorbet. The twinkle in her daughter's eyes mirrored Margaret's own spirit from years ago, igniting an unexpected swell of pride. She realized Jessica was relishing her own moment to shine, and it forced Margaret to confront the worthiness of her own achievements. But then, just as everything felt monumental, the fire flame of perfectionist tendencies flickered within. What if the evening's reputation crumbled? What if Helen was right about the inadequacies of her menu? Just then, her eyes landed on a half-eaten plate of risotto barely touched. Uncertainty gripped her. Would she face the criticisms with unwavering resolve, or crumple under the pressure of familial expectations? With that thought, Margaret turned to find Jessica, who was laughing with her friends, unaware of the storm brewing inside her mother. And in that moment, amidst the joy radiating from her daughter, Margaret recognized what she truly needed to confront. Would she let the judgments of others, especially her sister, define her successes? Would she allow self-imposed limitations to take root, or would she stand firm in her journey of transformation, however imperfect it might be? The resonance of her own question echoed within, reverberating through the laughter and warmth of the gathering. Uncertainty continued to dance at the edges of her mind, but somewhere deep inside, a resolve started to form. A decision was looming, an answer waiting just out of reach. What did this celebration mean for her next steps, both as a mother and as a woman finally claiming her voice? And could she translate the night's success into a life filled with more than just fleeting moments of happiness? The path ahead beckoned, shrouded in questions, and Margaret stood at the precipice of a journey yet unfurling. The days that followed the showcase swept through Margaret's life like a refreshing breeze. Stepping into the bright kitchen, now layered with memories and experiences, she felt lighter. Each morning greeted her with the scent of fresh coffee and the warmth of sunlight that cascaded through the open windows. The kitchen had transformed into a place of growth, creativity, and newfound purpose, a stage for not just culinary exploration, but for rediscovering herself. Margaret's resolve solidified further as she leaned into the project of remodeling, seamlessly merging her artistic inclinations with a modern design that honored the past. Each brushstroke, each tile laid became a testament to her resilience. No longer did she feel like a spectator in her own life. She was the architect, forging a renewed identity and reclaiming the autonomy that had been clipped away by the seasons of loss and grief. The once silent walls began to resonate with laughter and conversation. Jessica's vibrant energy infused the space with a sense of adventure, and Margaret flourished alongside her. They spent countless evenings experimenting with recipes, twirling in the kitchen as they transferred their shared history into every dish they created. Memories bloomed anew with the taste of every meal, a savory risotto here, a sweet mango sorbet there, a reflection of their evolving bond. Margaret regained her confidence in unexpected ways, revealing layers of herself long buried under doubt. During a cooking class, she shared stories of her childhood, intertwining anecdotes with lessons about flavors. Food is emotion, she found herself saying, inspiring others to appreciate its intrinsic connection to their lives. For Margaret, those moments became a recognition of her professional identity as an educator and creator, reaffirming her belief in the power of connection through storytelling and sharing. The culmination of their efforts reached a new height when they decided to invite a small group of close friends for a family heritage night. The purpose was not just to showcase their culinary journey, but to weave tales of their ancestors into dishes that resonated deeply with laughter, joy, and bittersweet memories. Each family recipe placed on the table served as a bridge through time, a tangible connection to generations past. Margaret's heart filled with pride as she watched her friends savor the flavors and share their stories, realizing how her journey had become a catalyst for celebration and connection. For the first time, she understood that her identity was not solely defined by the past or her role within her family. It was enriched by the relationships she nurtured and the vitality she brought into her home. As the evening drew to a close, someone suggested they make this a tradition, a way to honor their shared heritage and create new memories. Margaret's heart swelled at the prospect, because for once, she didn't fear the challenge ahead. She embraced the idea with fervor, eager to co-create this shared journey with her daughter and friends. In that moment, the kitchen stood not just as a physical space, but a sanctuary leading to possibilities to embrace change while cherishing tradition. Margaret realized that they had not just remodeled the kitchen, they had rebuilt the essence of their family dynamic, transforming into co-creators of their narrative. Gratitude washed over her, settling into quiet contentment. Margaret had stepped away from the shadows of her former self, emerging into a vibrant embodiment of courage and creativity. Looking toward the future, she felt a solid confidence within. The storm that once threatened their relationship had passed, leaving behind a clear sky filled with potential. Margaret had not only remodeled her home but redefined her legacy. She had proven to herself that she was capable of adaptation, that creation could emerge from chaos, and that love could be found in the spaces between. The past would always be a part of her story, yet it was no longer a weight to bear. It transformed into a canvas from which she could draw inspiration for the future, a future where she could flourish as an individual, as a mother, and as an artist. Margaret took a moment to appreciate the journey, a remarkable transformation that had turned a house of memories into a home filled with hope and promise. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire your journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and allow more stories to reach those who need them the most. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a reminder of the power of personal overcoming and the beauty of transformation. Show your support now. This is the moment.